Hi, this is Peter Clayton. Welcome to a special Innovation Channel edition of TotalPicture Radio. We are on location today in Westport, Connecticut with my good friend Dan Merton, who is the founder and CEO of a company called LSMedia. Dan is an expert in paid search marketing, display advertising, and something called retargeting, which we'll talk about a little bit. He's also an expert in mobile ads, programmatic bidding, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter campaigns. Dan and I are going to talk today about cracking the code, especially for B2B lead generation and marketing. So Dan, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today here on TotalPicture Radio.
Hi Peter, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
For a couple of years, you lived down in Paradise in the BVI. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, yeah. My career started over 15 years ago. I got involved with an online retailer in the first dot-com boom, and that I've been involved ever since, working mainly in the e-commerce space ever since. And recently, as you mentioned, my wife and I had an opportunity to live down in the Virgin Islands, which was great. And what, while there, I had, like I do now, I had clients that I basically help with their marketing that I was working with. I was actually focused on two things. I had fewer clients at the time because I had taken on a project where me and two others co-founded an online retailer of craft beer. And I was the marketing and technology lead on that project. And it was really fun.
Boy, that certainly has taken off, hasn't it? Yeah. The craft beer?
Oh, craft beer as an industry has taken off tremendously. And that project was extremely fun, though it's concluded now at this point. But also, at the same time, my wife had started a small concierge service helping the local charter boats fill their pipeline with leads and day charter customers, which kind of worked out nicely because I was able to help her with all of the marketing, lead generation, and e-commerce knowledge that I have to build her business.
And of course, that was all online.
It was all online. That was the difference. We were an online-only day charter concierge service for the Virgin Islands, and typically people would find us prior to the vacation or while on island looking for something to do, looking for activities. And that was a really that was a fun project as well. We were there.
And of course, the way they found you is you're an expert in SEO.
Sure, we utilized SEO. We utilized Google AdWords, retargeting, display advertising, Facebook ads, just to name a few things.
All right. Well, explain to us what retargeting is.
Sure, retargeting, and everyone has seen this. This is where you go to a website. I'll pick an example out of thin air. You go to Toyota to look at lease rates on a new car, and you find your information and you leave. And for the next several days, weeks, or even a month, you'll begin to see Toyota ads as you surf around the web on different websites, almost anywhere. And this is not coincidental. This is an intentional step they took to track you anonymously. They don't actually know who you are. They just know that someone from your computer went to Toyota's website. And
this is all through cookies.
This is all through cookie technology. There are other technologies, but that's the main one. That's the one being used today. But that said, some people find this form of advertising annoying.
Creepy. Creepy
is another word you hear. There's ways to mitigate that, though. First of all, you don't want to show too many ads to your prospective buyer, and you don't want to show them a message that indicates that they know too much about you. But at the same time, effective.
Overly intrusive and scaring the hell out of people.
Intrusive is the best way to put it. You don't want it to be intrusive. However, I will tell you that every major corporation is using this sort of advertising because it works. It's extremely effective at helping keep your audience, prospective customers top of mind while they search, while they're in the sales funnel. And that goes for things that are impulse buys to things that have a long consideration period. It's the other thing too, back to a conversation we had at one point, you're at a disadvantage if you're not using it because your competitors all are.
To this whole idea of lead generation, of course, in the B2B world, most lead gen comes, I think, today from webinars, which are extremely popular and they work. and I have spoken with many, many vendors out there and recruiters who have used webinars and have had a very good success rate at converting those leads into actual business. So talk to us a little bit about other ways of creating lead generation outside of the typical webinar world.
Sure. Yeah, I think that webinars are a great tool. They're an infomercial to me, and they provide information. So they're excuse me, they're valuable for the people on both sides.
Right, but they're also very time consuming to produce, and oftentimes very expensive to produce.
And time consuming for the person on the side of that's watching the webinar. So yeah, I guess the first thing I gravitate towards is keywords. Keywords in the form of SEO and keywords in the form of paid search. Reason being, these are intent-driven marketing channels, meaning someone's doing a search for a particular keyword, they're very interested in what they're looking for.
Right.
On one side, they're typically very expensive. You pay by the click, as you know, as most people know, and volume can be limited. So and you have to manage your accounts very carefully in terms of your keyword selection and your, the ad creation and the landing pages that you create that people click through to in order to make a successful keyword campaign. Also, in that same world, we were talking a little bit more about paid search there, but in terms of search engine optimization, this is the organic search engine optimization. Right. This is a great place to it's a great form of marketing because it can be incredibly rewarding once you rank for a particular keyword that you know is of high value. It also can be very frustrating for the reasons that it's hard to forecast what's going to happen. It's hard to forecast what position you're going to rank in. It's hard to know how long you'll stay in that position, and it's hard to know exactly what you're going to get from it when compared to paid search, when you can test something, know what clicks you got, what period of time, what sales or leads were generated, and what the conversion rate was. You can ultimately distill all the numbers in a spreadsheet, and everybody walks away understanding how we quantified it.
Right.
So that's the fundamental difference there. Some other things you can do. Retargeting, like we touched on, is something you should be doing, but that really only works to help push forward the people that have already seen your message and seen your brand.
How do you do a retargeting campaign? I mean, from a technical standpoint, how does that happen?
Sure. There's many ways.
Okay.
Any digital marketing agency like us could help you. We can set one up for you. However, there's all sorts of platforms. Google will help you with a retargeting campaign. There's several retargeting only agencies that are large agencies that focus solely on the retargeting, which is a subset of display advertising as a channel.
Right. So any of the digital ad agencies out there today, the Razorfishes of the world, would be expert in doing a retargeting campaign.
Yeah, and they're all using a tool to do it, and they're all optimizing it differently and doing slightly different things for you. But there's retargeting platforms you can go to. There's self-service ones where you can go to direct, like Google, and so there's sort of every sort of size or solution there.
Google offers this wonderful service which is called Google Analytics, which is free, which we all like. We like free. And it really, I think most people, especially people who are in marketing or sales, know about Google Analytics, but they really don't know how to use it.
Sure, yeah. Google Analytics is a great tool. It's very powerful. As you mentioned, free, great. And there's plenty of competitors that you pay a lot of money for. I don't think for the money they're worth it unless you have specialized businesses. But for 90% of the websites out there, Google Analytics does a great job. And it can run in tandem with a paid service as well. But that said, everyone loves insights and data these days. But to me, what's important is understanding what's actionable. When I look at my Google Analytics, what is it telling me that's actionable? I can look at my traffic numbers, I can look at my sources of traffic, which pages were visited, landing pages, bounce rates. But ultimately, you want to make sure you have goals set up within Google Analytics, meaning that when someone fills out a form or submits whatever it is they do, whatever the action item is that you'd like them to complete, that it's set up so Google Analytics is tracking that. So that way, when they track a lead that comes through and that was your goal, you can attribute a source to that lead. You can even attribute a cost if it's wired to a campaign in Google AdWords. And you can also have it calculate a value if you provided that information. You can also set up custom reporting and dashboards and do very specific things like segment traffic. You can use it for year-over-year comparisons to understand how you're growing or what the trend is. And I think all those things are important. But understanding the first step for anyone with a website is understanding what are your core, what are your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and understanding how they're measured, and then what we're doing, what we've done to increase these things or to help the performance of them over time.
Right. So that's with the goal kinds of thing that you're talking about. If you're coming out with a new campaign, how has that really impacted what has happened on your website?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Number of, it's going to tell me my number of visitors. It's going to tell me how many sales I had. It's going to tell me the sales dollars, but it's also going to give me my conversion rates, and it can give me my average order value, which can be indicative of, there can be various things within there that one's going up and one's going down, but Google Analytics is the tool that helps you understand why.
Well, what about for, let's say, consultants and companies that really, when you go to their website, they're really not selling a particular widget on that website.
Right.
What they are selling a service. So how can someone who is more of a service-oriented business take advantage of these kinds of things?
So if you're a service-oriented business, you either want emails or you want your phone to ring. Or a form submitted on your website. That could be an email. And so you can measure, the good news is you can measure both of those through Google Analytics. You'd need third-party call tracking, but I recommend that to anybody who's spending any considerable amount of money on their marketing. You want to implement call tracking. I mean, it changes the numbers drastically when you see what happens, when you see where a lead, if you can track a call to a web source, it instantly changes it gives you the ability to look at how you're spending money and how to change it and how to make it more efficient. So that's a solution I always recommend for people in the lead gen space. If they take calls, some things don't. I would think in HR, many corporations actually don't take phone calls.
The value of a B2B lead is quite different than the value of a B2C lead. I did this interview with Russell Glass, who's with LinkedIn, a week or so ago, who wrote a really good book on big data. And this is something he was talking about. A B2B lead can be worth millions of dollars, right?
Certainly, yeah.
So again, back to this whole thing of lead gen and how you can go out and attract those very high value customers. What are some other techniques we can use?
Sure, and I think the techniques are the same. However, I think how we measure them and how ultimately what's different is what we're doing to nurture them. Mm-hmm. Because a B2B lead is it might take 6 months, 9 months, over a year to close, right?
Right.
So
especially for a large enterprise.
So I mean, you're still buying keywords, and but what you're doing is you're still trying to. You remember, you're buying keywords, and someone might submit a form, but then if there's a sales process, there's salespeople involved, but there's still things like retargeting. You want to stay top of mind for them because they're inevitably looking at your competitors. Consideration of all the solutions is probably going on during that time period, during that sales cycle time period. So I think that helping reinforce your brand through there's retargeting, there's display retargeting that we touched on where the banners follow you around, but there's also retargeting for search, which is a product that Google offers. And what's interesting is the retargeting for search campaign allows a marketer to get in front of a person who's been to their website. However, you can set up a retargeting for search campaign where we only show an ad to somebody who's been to the website, which allows us to use a broader set of keywords or a different set of keywords that could, in some cases, be sequential or something you think, okay, look, if I'm, let me think of an example. If I'm searching for, let me think of it this way. If I'm searching for, we did this with the yacht charter client. You're searching for Caribbean yacht charters, and you have we get someone in the door. Now we're going to start retargeting to them when they search for anything related to maybe a yacht charter place or company or something that we don't necessarily offer, but we know since they understand who we are, that our message might be better received or more paid attention to based on that fact. That they already have seen us and understand who we are.
That's really interesting. I wasn't even aware there was such a thing as retargeting for search, which I think could be especially effective in the B2B space. Right?
Sure, and I mean, there's, thinking about the application for that, you're going after specific people, and once someone's seen a job posting, now we can get at that same person with much broader search criteria, search keywords, and stay top of mind within Google search engine results pages.
There's something else I want to bring into this conversation, Dan, that has become so important in the B2B world and certainly in HR and recruiting, and that is the conversion to mobile devices for many, many people, especially doing job searches or even doing product searches. They're using a mobile device, be it a mobile phone, a smartphone, or a tablet. So talk to us a little bit about that and how you plan for and are able to do SEO and lead generation with people who are using a mobile device.
Sure, I think that the SEO is really no different. The key from an advertising perspective, there's not much different. It's when we get to the landing page that things change. You and I have talked about responsive design in the past. This is designing one website that accommodates for every display size there could be. Everything from your telephone, or excuse me, your mobile phone to your tablet to your full desktop. It's the same website that resizes and it does it in a graceful way so that the interface is compact and easy to use. Some of the differences, though, and things we have to keep in mind are, what do we ask someone to do? On a desktop, we saw this in e-commerce. It took a long time for people to start buying on a mobile device. And the general thought on this was, it's just hard to fill out all the forms, right? Your billing information. It's hard to fill out your shipping information at the same time. So when you have a mobile campaign, or with the idea that 50% of your traffic might be mobile, you have to remember what you're asking people to do on the device. Mm-hmm. The attention span is going to be a little bit shorter. Connections might be slower. So page load times must be fast. Forms must be simple to fill out. Interface and navigational elements should be kept to a minimum and used correctly, and be optimized for mobile at the same time. That's where I think it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Amazon, but they're brilliant at this. I mean, they have really led the way in one-click buying of products.
Sure. Yeah.
and making it easy for people to just buy with things like their Prime accounts and I buy stuff on Amazon every week. It's just because it's just too easy.
It's replacing going to certain stores for me.
Oh, I don't like going to stores.
Right, and they've even gone another step, and they have their own app, which inevitably offers more functionality, more usability, faster experience, right. And it's more secure at the same time. So that that's another something we haven't even touched upon.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about building an app especially in the area of lead generation and getting your message out there, getting your company out there on a mobile device. How complicated is it? How expensive is it? How long does it take? And what are some of the steps that someone, especially a marketing leader, needs to look at in building an app? And I think for some companies it really doesn't make sense to have an app.
Yeah, and I think you should think about building an app as, do we really need it? Is what we're doing, do we need the app? Because traditionally the apps came about because two reasons. One, the app was able to access more features on the smartphone than a browser could. That's starting to change. Browsers are now able to access the GPS component of the smartphone, the camera in some cases. Maybe that's not one, but what I'm getting at is, and the other thing the app provided was speed. You didn't have to download all of the interface elements with each page download, just data. But that's sort of that's becoming a grayer and grayer area. Right. So apps for lead gen, I'm not an expert there. We have experience with marketing apps. Once someone trying to push downloads for apps, we've done a bit of that with some success, and depending on what it is, I'd say depending on what the app is for and who the intended audience, really makes a difference. One example, we had a client who was running a transportation service on Long Island, and it was all driven through an app. You could pay, like Uber, you could pay for your ride, you could buy a season pass, you could see where, it was a bus service, you could see where the buses were on their route and know approximated time when it was getting to your stop. It was all app driven, and so the entire campaign was basically trying to get people to download the app. With the intent that if they had the app, there's more likelihood of ridership, right?
Right.
So this worked really well with very geo-specific ads in certain locations where they could use the service. And it also worked really well on Facebook for people, again, of a certain demographic. We're able to target people very specifically.
Yeah, you were telling me about a wedding photographer that who uses Facebook ads to target. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And so Facebook's a really interesting thing. And what I mean is, it's like keyword advertising in a sense that you can pay by the click, but there isn't the same intent, right? However, we can get at something different. We know a lot more about the particular person that we're advertising towards. We know that you might be a 33-year-old male in Fairfield, Connecticut, right? Because that person's indicated that to Facebook. So given the massive scale of Facebook, we can get in front of a lot of probably all the 33-year-old males in Fairfield, Connecticut, with a very specific ad. So with that in mind, think about it this way. I have a friend who's a photographer who wanted to get in front of people that might use his service. So we designed a campaign. It's very simple to say we want to advertise towards women of any age who are engaged in this geographic area. And while those women don't necessarily, and men too, but women often make a lot of the decisions when it comes to wedding planning, as most of us know who have been married.
Especially when it comes to things like the photographer. And
yeah, and I love my wife dearly, but she did make a lot of those decisions. That said, when you think about it, even though this group of people didn't have intent, they were really they were the right people to be in front of at the right time. Mm-hmm. Meaning they're engaged, and they're engaged now, and they're in the right area. Right. So that it made a lot of sense, and it does provide cost-effective leads for this particular business.
Yeah, back to the app thing for a second. I interviewed the CEO of a company called Jobber, Jobr, recently, and there's this whole set now of what I refer to as stealth apps for passive candidates, meaning that as someone who has a job but who may be interested in looking around, you can submit your information, and they hide your name and where you currently work and all that kind of stuff, but you can kind of look around and see what kind of job opportunities are out there. And one of the things that Jobber does is, to this whole idea of geolocation, for certain types of jobs, especially, let's say, in retail, they want people, the companies who are serving up ads on this platform, they want people who are within a 10 to 20 mile radius of that location. So with this Jobber app, they'll only serve up ads to these people who meet the criteria that they're looking for and are in the geographic location that is appropriate for that particular job, which is really a new and fascinating way of going about, hiring people.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it uses the scale of the web combined with the local aspect of their geographic area, right? Mm-hmm. In order to get a message to them. How'd you do that in the past? Well,
it was called spray and pray.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it was. You just throw an ad up on Monster and you get 3,000 submissions, and out of that 3,000 submissions, 20 may be appropriate.
Sure.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of vertical growth in the job space, like you're mentioning.
There is. And especially now that the market has turned around, which is another interesting aspect of this whole thing, is that, back to our conversation about mobile, I don't think anybody expected mobile to take off and become as predominant as it has. And I don't think anybody, especially in HR and recruiting, thought that the market was going to turn around as quickly as it has, mm-hmm. to become much more of a candidate market than an employer market.
This concludes part 1 of our interview with Dan Merton, founder of LSMedia. Be sure to visit Dan's show page in the Innovation channel of Total Picture Radio. That's TotalPicture.com for resource links and much more information. While there, please sign up for our free newsletter, subscribe to our iTunes channel, and join the conversation on our Total Picture Radio Facebook group. Today's Innovation Channel podcast is brought to you by Recruitify. With Recruitify, companies can easily connect with top recruiters and passive candidates interested in exploring new opportunities. Employers use the link on Dan's show page, and Recruitify will waive the $50 listing fee for your first Recruitify Jobcast. This is Peter Clayton. Thanks so much for tuning in to Total Picture Radio. Have a great day.